Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 138.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. My name is Jay. I am your host, and guess what? We are going to have some more fun today. Obviously talking about cash flow, but more importantly, I'm hoping that you appreciate the fact that we can track down, find some of today's busiest entrepreneurs and have them share with you what it's going to take for you to go out there and build cash flow. And obviously, today's guest is no exception to the busy clause because she does a ton of stuff. Towanna Freeman is a management consultant, executive coach, and advocate for youth. Now, first of all, I don't care what you're doing. At some point, you probably want to find a way to be an advocate for somebody, and an advocate for youth is awesome, in my opinion. Not only do I have kids, but I love helping children too. Have you ever played a cash flow game with the kids? Just a thought. Think about it. Anyway, let's get back to it. She conducts workshops and conferences where she impacts life-changing message that she hopes and works to drive inspiration to people. You got to understand that takes a lot of work. Right now, it's her purpose, it's her success, and so much so, in fact, she co-authored an award-winning book, Purposeful Action, 7 Steps to Fulfillment. I love that, which reveals the 7-step method for identifying and effectively pursuing personal and professional goals. Here's some of the things, just think about it, some of the things that she's been able to accomplish. She's currently she is the principal consultant for Towanna Freeman and Associates, an active consultancy in the greater Washington, D.C. metro area, and the founder of Black Life Coaches Network, which is code for she helps a lot of people. She's also been featured in AOL's Black Voices, AT&T's 28 Days of Inspiration, and Jet Magazine, Jet.com, and Essence.com. She is absolutely busy, but most importantly, she's not too busy to share with you and I how to make it happen. Help me welcome Towanna Freeman. Towanna, you there?
I am here and I'm excited to join you. This is amazing. I love cash flow.
I think many people do. And at the end of the day, I'm glad that you take your time to be here. Now, many people know that I look at, today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, when I say superheroes, I don't really care, which superheroes you choose. You could look at, obviously you can look at, Batman, or you can look at Wonder Woman, and you could look at many different ones of them. I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there who probably has a list and, they actually prefer Batgirl. That's great. All of them started somewhere. They all were something different before they decided to swoop around and save people. What I would love to know is, who was Towanna Freeman before you were doing all these wonderful things and helping people?
I love that question. Oh my God. Okay, so if I had to identify with a superhero, it would absolutely be Wonder Woman. I grew up watching Wonder Woman. I'm a 70s baby. And I'm gonna tell you something, Towanna Freeman grew up in very humble beginnings with a grandfather with a third grade education who was a sharecropper in the Carolinas. And integrity was the primary value structure that he instilled in all of his grandchildren. My parents raised me to represent, integrity and strength and good character. And so in my mind, as I was, growing up, and I used to hear my grandparents preach all the time, you have to be a person of good character. I used to love Wonder Woman's golden lasso. I'm telling you, because she would wrap it around her, the
lasso of
people,
truth.
the lasso of truth, right?
Yeah.
And so when you mentioned it, oh my God, I remember as a kid wanting that lasso. So people would always tell the truth because integrity is my foundation. And I believe that people should come to the table with integrity and good character because, we're so many times we're missing that in business. And that's what I strive for in everything that I do since, all my upbringing all the way through as an entrepreneur and now successful business owner. Integrity is number one.
Agreed 100%. But I like the fact that you reference that it's not something you evolved to. It's just something that was given to you by your grandfather. And at the end of the day, there's so much of who we are as an entrepreneur that came from places that we had literally nothing to do with. Why we do or how we do what we do today has a lot to do with who we were at the beginning. So answer me this, Wonder Woman. How do you go, what were some of the first things that you were doing, say occupationally or out there in the world that eventually led you to what you do today?
Oh, so I'm a techie. My undergraduate degree is in chemistry. Once, in working in chemistry and being in laboratories, I recognized quickly that being in the lab, wearing the lab coat, I had the loudest shoes in the lab. I refused to conform to the, the super geek, stereotype. So I would still wear, heels when everyone else is wearing, the nice, soft sole shoes. So I stayed in that environment, with the understanding in corporate America that technology took over the world. And so what we were doing in the labs as a chemist, once technology took over, they were looking for people who were interested in running away and, learning more about digital transmission. And so I took full advantage of the opportunity, went back to school, learned digital transmissions, and became real hot in the cell phone and pager industry. So, and so I, as a techie, I naturally and quickly pick up on things. And so I mastered that technology and became worked in different companies in corporate America, worked for the federal government here in DC. That's a big, big deal for job security, work in corporate America. And then from government to corporate America. And I worked myself out of a job. I had gotten all the way up through the corporate rings to where I was a director in IT, information technology, and running a program. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollar program, running a workforce of over 180 people, doing service delivery and managing and internet and computer infrastructures. And I worked myself out of a job. I couldn't be managed anymore. I got to a place where I realized that my life wasn't my own. And I had a beautiful little girl. And, when you're hustling at the director's level, the next opportunity is VP. And my life wasn't mine anymore. And I was stressed. I didn't know how stressed, but I was extremely stressed, overwhelmed, overworked, and making great money. But I wasn't fulfilled. And so corporate America, so I'm a corporate girl, and it was time to kind of change.
That's an understatement. Now, for those of you listening, a pager is a device that existed long before a cell phone. Because I'm sure there's somebody who goes, pager?
What's a pager?
All right. So with that being said, now, I'm guessing, on this journey to build cash flow, it's one of those make or break decisions. There comes this point where, just like every superhero, whatever happens to them happened to them. Maybe their planet blew up or, their parents died or maybe whatever it is, something happened to them. And then when they came to that realization, they decided to do something about it. And what I'm hearing you describe is the fact that something happened to you. You were walking down this path. This path no longer was laced with a road of gold. It didn't look as great as it used to. And you were beginning to experience that frustration, that stress, that overwhelm. tell us the genesis of how because you don't just go from, by the way, chemistry. That's just like, wow. I was like, all right, I'm not a chemist at all. I want to talk about a difficult class. She's like, oh, I did that for fun. All
Yeah.
right. But so how do you go from that to, hey, I know I'm going to help a whole bunch of other people with their business, etc. How do you make that leap? Because that's not a natural jump for most of us.
It's not. And Jay, you are amazing with your questions. I love it. Okay, so the leap came in at that point of frustration and being overworked. I realized that the area of my life that I was that needed attention was my love life. I wasn't dating. I wasn't, doing a lot of personal attention. And so I fell in love. I fell in love with someone, and that man we got married, and it changed everything. I mean, the world slowed down. And so, and someone else was around to share, I guess, a different perspective with me around what it, because, I was in my late 30s, and when you're in your late 30s and you're, really, really accomplishing great things in your early 30s, you are missing out on a lot. And so, he shed a light on something, and I changed. I calmed me down, and we relocated and moved to calmer, beautiful waters of Hawaii, and lived in Hawaii. And you talk about transition. I went from the hustle of DC to the coolest place on the planet. Oh my God, Hawaii was amazing. It changed my life forever.
Yeah, I'm just sitting. You're on island time.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's the same. That I get it. Now, when you make that transition though, but you still have to become a different person. I mean, as superheroes, they got the alter ego, then they get all dressed up, with capes and whatnot before they start saving other people. How do you just wake up one day and say, you know what? I know I'm going to do this. I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna do Black life coaches. I'm gonna do where did that come from?
Yeah. So, while I was laying around on the beach, while I was meeting people, I was, detoxing from my hustled life. I realized that what I loved to do in all the years of serving in corporate America, that after you've really transitioned from what you do professionally, like being a techie, having your hands on computers and all that kind of stuff, you don't do that much. At the higher levels, at executive levels, it's all about people management. And so once I connected with the point that what I really loved the most and missed, even while I was living on the island, I missed working with people directly. I missed the personal and professional development. And so I had built, the last, really 8 to 10 years of my career just working with people. And so I began to calculate how I could leverage all that I had learned in working with people. And then I decided that I would go and create another way of helping people through that professional development. So I went and discovered coaching and got certified as a professional life coach. And that helped to round out everything I learned as far as professional development, working with my workforce, helping me to understand how to really cultivate a new culture of employees that could really make a difference in the workforce, especially during a time where we had, the recession had come and we had really a lot of people that were unemployed. It was perfect timing to really develop that level of skill for myself that I could apply. So I took the time, the quiet time, I put pen to paper, wrote my book, and I completed my certification in coaching, really got in tune to what I loved. And I started working directly with women, executive women who were in transition or who had been laid off. And that's where the consultancy happened. That's where people in corporate America would call me to work with, employee retention and help, build relationships and trust again between supervisors and subordinates. It was an aha moment for me. I know that sounds a little cliche and Oprah-ish, but it really was the awakening that I needed to connect it all together.
That's fine. Any reference to Oprah on this show, I'll take it. That's all I know. So with all of that, one of the things I want everyone else to hear is you've often heard me say things like the difference between, one investor and another is simply interpersonal skills. And that's exactly what you're saying. You went and got a new skill set. That new skill set put you in a completely different frame of mind and network. But you went out there and wrote a book, and I kind of like that. So talk to us a little bit, because I'm sure there's at least one person who's going, maybe my way to cash flow is to write a book. I'll write a book and everyone will buy it, and that'll be it. But I would love to know a little bit more, because I love the title, by the way. And that tells me that there's something there that everybody else needs to hear. So tell us a little bit about it.
Right. So Purposeful Action, 7 Steps to Fulfillment, is really a series of questions, allowing you to be truthful and honest about what you really want out of life. The fulfillment of life, being able to assess where you are today and really where you wanted to be, what you used to do, or what you used to desire and you gave up on because life happened, and it changed your direction. So it takes you to a place where you have to answer some of the simplest questions, but the most life-changing questions, the simple ones, looking at the full scope of your life and what you've sacrificed. What did you sacrifice, and what area of life was sacrificed? Was it, what's important, whether it was weight loss? Was it your love life? Was it your finances? What areas of your life had been sacrificed based off your choices? And so it's a series of questions. It's almost like a workbook. And, a lot of the self-discovery that I went through while I was reassessing my life and going on the path of fulfillment, I just put it in and bound it in that book, and I poured my heart into it and came up with the most common questions that we all like to avoid, that can sometimes make you cry, that can sometimes get you upset and angry because you want to blame other people because they got in your way. So it's the ability to transition your life despite the obstacles, using all the resources that are available to you, that you can actually propel yourself to that place that you really want to be for fulfillment.
Nice. I've got to ask, what's that question? Give me the one that you've heard or, from readers, or that you're like, this is the one that I'm running from. Because here's what I've learned. I've learned when we're running from something, it's actually often the very path that we need to go down, so that we have the ability to become who it is that we need to become, so we can go out there and provide more value to the world. So I want to know, what is that awesome question that most of us want to continue to avoid?
Yeah. What makes me happy? A lot of people will sacrifice their own happiness for someone else. You will, especially women who are at home, they will sacrifice their career for their children. And that's not a bad thing, but that's a season that you have to realize. It's a season of your life, not your entire life. So what brings you happiness, or what is it that you really want out of life, is that point where you have to go back and say, before I had children, this is what I wanted. This is the dream I had that would have made me happy. Or if you are, as most men are, they understand sometimes their highest value is money. So a lot of times you'll see people, what will make me happy? Having a 6-figure paying job annual would make me happy. Well, when you look at everything, the question is, then becomes what is keeping you from getting to that point? And a lot of times we find ourselves saying, what is keeping me from it will then effectively change what you want in your happiness zone. Because then you'll change what you want based on what's in your way, versus looking at what's in your way and seeing how you can use it, and not looking at it as a problem, but an opportunity or a way that you can share.
Got it. So give me an example of what you're talking about, just for clarity's sake.
Okay, so in the book, we have 2 case studies, Carol and Nicole, and those 2 women go on a life journey. So one of the things that, using my life as an example, the one thing that I realized that I was sacrificing, what made me happy was to be present with my daughter, to be able to live a life where I wasn't stressed. What would make me happy is to be able to be someplace in the world where I was relaxing, enjoying, and living in the moment versus being on the grind. And so what did I have to change to do that? What did I need to set in place so that I could have that freedom? What was the task? So to have that inner peace and to be able to be present every day would make me happy. And so I created an opportunity for myself, just like anyone else would say, okay, well, I need to quit my job and start, create revenue streams that would allow me to quit my job. For me, it was to slow down. For me, it meant to sit back and say, okay, I have revenue stream, but I don't know how to slow down. So I need to introduce things into my life like yoga, meditation and yoga, hanging out with friends. So there became a process, a plan, a strategic plan that I had to put in place to find my happy.
Interesting. I'm listening to you going, slow down. Wouldn't know what that's like. You get used to running at a certain pace and speed for a significant amount of time. It's like, that's an interesting concept. Sometimes the way to that freedom, if you will, that you're looking for is not actually to go faster, but to slow down. Now,
right. Well, culturally, we're taught that too. Depends on where you live. There's some states in the U.S. that are very, very slow, just like the Hawaiian island. Those islands are extremely slow paced, but the people there, they're productive, just like we are on the East Coast or New York or California. It's just how you view it and what you can create. Because sometimes being busy, you just look busy. You may be making money, but you don't get a trophy at your funeral because you were the busiest person in the world.
No, you do not. So, but that's still a real estate play for those of you listening. Just keep that in mind. At the end of the day, what I would love to hear is there's this point where you decide that I'm going to put myself out there and begin helping other people. How did you develop the courage to get that first person that first client, that first person to say, yes, I will definitely work with you and let you help me with these issues?
Well, the good thing is that I had a network, obviously, that, a lot of people who had worked with me when I was in corporate America. I had a number of people from the community that have known me from my social entrepreneurship and working with the youth. So I had a track record, a demonstrated ability to work with people and help them in their lives, whether it, you call it mentoring or whatever, but to formally call it coaching and tap on my network to let them know I'm out here. I've rebranded myself and I am officially now a life coach or life strategist. So I'm working with you as, personally as well as professionally now. So that's how I was able to leverage it. So I tapped my own network. And then from that, of course, the book was a calling card per se. It was more like a business card. So when people want to know your legitimacy, if you're, breaking new territory, you have something like a book that becomes your calling card. This is, I am now an expert in this field. I can talk to it. Here's a book to learn more about why I'm in this field now. And so I used everything I had. I used my experience. I used the new book, and I used the network to start it off and to kick it off until I got to a place where I needed to build a team of coaches because I had more clients than I could serve. So that's why I had to expand and look for other coaches who were qualified to serve my particular network and say, hey, you know what? I need to find more people that are, qualified to do this. And my consultancy needed to be staffed up. So where do I go and how do I find these people? So I went on a hunt, and what naturally transitioned from me trying to find people to fulfill my contractual obligations end up being the establishment of the Black Life Coaches Network, because they were a very specific group of corporate clients who were looking for coaches of color, whether they were of the Latin, Asian, and or African American communities. The hunt to find that diversity had become very difficult, and I thought it should not be difficult. So I solved my own problem by creating a pool of resources that I can, go to satisfy these requirements. And so that's how the Black Life Coaches Network was established.
Some of the best businesses I've found are the ones where the owner or the original inspiration for the idea came from solving your own problem. And at the end of the day, that's what an entrepreneur does. We look for problems and we solve them. And the key thing, and this is what I like about what you just said, that it illustrates so well, is that if you can solve it for one person, you can solve it for 1,000. The only difference is scale. And you found a way to do exactly that, is to scale. And obviously, being a techie, you're like, I'm going to use the internet to make that happen. So that's awesome that you figured that out as well. So what do you think is the number one thing? I mean, you've worked with a lot of individuals, but my question becomes things like, well, why aren't more people pursuing being an entrepreneur? Why aren't more people learning how to develop their cash flow outside of just the employee-employer relationship?
Are you tired of letting good cash flow generating ideas go to waste? Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready to apply for a complimentary, yes, that means free, one-on-one breakthrough session. Take action now. Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready. Again, that's cashflowdiary.com/ready. Before we get back to today's episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, your host, Jay Massey, has some important insights to share with you.
Awesome. On a previous episode, you probably heard me talk about our new Cashflow Diary Core membership. I am just saying you guys get a free 30 days just for leaving us a review of the podcast. And thank you to those of you who have done so. It has been fun talking to you inside of our live events and helping you take those action steps so that you can use the materials inside to write those offers, make those deals, raise the capital. I mean, people ask all the time, how on earth do you get a deal done? And then more importantly, where does the money come from? And we're showing you guys for 30 days. And again, I just wanted to express my thanks for you guys actually typing those reviews and telling us exactly what it is that you like about the show. Now, if you're wondering how you can get in on that action, just go over to cashflowdiary.com/reviews with an S, REVIEWS. Really easy for me to say, clearly not. And you can be a part of it too. So I welcome you guys to come inside. It works in all countries where you're able to legally own property. And so long as you live near people, we can help you. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys inside. But right now, let's get back so that we can help you build more cash flow.
It's the fear. It's the fear of not having the same level of comfort. Majority of my clients that I work with who are looking to transition from corporate America to entrepreneurship all want to know, how do I create that cushion? And so there's obviously a way that we sit down and I work with them to build a strategic plan for that transition. A lot of times it would mean, for me, like I always say, you want to have 6 months of salary in reserve that you are able to bank so that you could, once you transition away from the 9-to-5, that you have at least 6 months salary. You don't necessarily have to jump into that 401k, whatever, but you've saved and you've planned it out strategically to where you can fall on that 6 month of reserved salary. And so that helps with that. It gives them that, sense of security, and also gives them, reduces the fear of how I'm going to pay the bill in a lean month. So you're not touching your reserve, but you're working in your business, and we step that plan out. As a project manager for all those years in technology, the one thing we have perfected is the ability to create plans and strategies. And so as a coach, it's easy for me to see where someone is and help them transition to where they want to be and create that plan of action that's actually achievable, not just a bunch of information on a piece of paper. We're talking the ability to achieve the goal and set them to a place where it is not too pie in the sky.
There's something that there's a couple of things that you're going fast, and I'm like, I hope someone heard that. I mean, one of the most important things I think that you just said was making sure that the goal is achievable. And I'm going to ask you about that in a second. But the other thing that I think people may have missed is you said you're going to have the reserve. However, you're not living on the reserve. It's there for that lean month. Your goal is still to go out there and become something, provide value to the marketplace darn near immediately. Because what I've seen people do this transition and go, well, I got 6 months before I need to, quote unquote, do anything.
Right.
I'm like, that's not going to work. Now, you said achievable. What would you say are the top 3 things that prevent people from making those? Because I'm sure many people are like, yeah, okay, I can make a plan. I've made a plan before. But what do you think sabotages us that makes us make these plans that are just not achievable?
Well, the first thing is accountability partners. A lot of times we will set a plan, and we're all, some of us are very good at writing, a great plan of action. However, you have to have an accountability partner in order for you to check in with someone. Like if you think about being on your job, and most of the people understand, you have those Monday meetings that we all dreaded because they lasted so freaking long. That you were sitting in those meetings and you're going through, and 2 hours later, you're like, Lord, that was a waste of time. But it was an accountability point of your week. So it caused you have to show up, present where you are and where you were going to go. And so it was to review your milestones and stuff. So if you were just doing that by yourself, you wouldn't have to answer to anyone. No one's going to hold you accountable to what you said you were going to do. So most of us have a hard time dealing with their entrepreneur goals because they have not found an accountability partner. And that's why coaching is such a cool support structure, because when you're working with a coach, that's what they're there for. They're helping you to scale. They're helping you to see clearly. They're helping you to move forward in your agenda. And when they see a watch out, they're able to tell you right away, just like in those Monday morning meetings. And so, and a lot of times when you're a solopreneur, just you in your business and you have nobody else working with you, you have to have someone other than yourself that can see the bigger picture and to help you meet those small goals as you're moving towards the bigger picture. So
let me just ask what could be a rhetorical question. Does anyone make it without accountability?
Oh, I haven't met anyone. I mean, you can get to a certain point. I mean, you can definitely achieve small goals and make money without accountability partners. Yes. However, we all know that if you want to make millions, you have to have $1 million mentor. A lot of us have to have people who've done it to share those experiences to help you move in that direction. You're not going to be able to get there if you don't visually have someone that can show you the road. I mean, otherwise you're going to be sweeping every road and you're going to sit here and say, well, that didn't work. So let me go back out, reverse the car, go back out to the crossroads and now go left instead of right. You're going to constantly have to reverse engineer everything as you find your path to success, when all you needed to do was look at someone with more experience, more knowledge, and more, the willingness to share, obviously, and demonstrated ability to say, that's not a left turn. That's definitely a right turn right now. So that accountability partner is giving you that insight you need. So yes, you can achieve to a certain point, but if you really want to make that mark, you want to make sure that where you're headed, you have someone in your life that can help you get there.
Now, I'm 100% in agreement. I'm never going to live long enough to make all the mistakes that many other people have already made. In fact, I'm going to make new and bigger ones in different, complete ways, which is awesome. What do you say, though, is what would be the other components that are required for any business owner, real estate or otherwise? Because I think it's just universal. How we choose to share our genius with the world, be that, in whatever industry, is one thing. But I think there are so many universal things, because we're all human, that happen to everybody. And I'm curious to hear what you see and would say to what else are those things that we absolutely must change or destroy, those negative habits that we must destroy in order to become the resource we ultimately, I think, want to be for other people.
Well, I tell you, you really want to avoid multitasking. I'm not a fan of that word. So, you want to have an accountability partner and you want to ensure that you are, headed in the right direction, those mentors. But at the same time, you want to avoid multitasking, because multitasking will cause you to sacrifice quality. If you are and for all those women who are listening, I'm gonna veer left for a second and say, okay, when you're in the kitchen cooking and you know that your children are running around in the kitchen and you're cooking and you have to respond to homework questions and everything, and you have fire going on under your dinner, and you know good and well that while you're answering questions around homework, that some of that food, maybe the quality of that food will be sacrificed if you stay a little too long talking to little Joe about his homework. So that is an example of how when you're in the middle of doing and having too many balls in the air at once, how one will eventually drop. You can't maintain that 100% all the time. So avoid having too much going on at once. And that's why having that project plan and that structure is so important, because multitasking will cause you to sacrifice quality in certain areas where it should not be sacrificed. I would also say, avoid the sinking ship and funding the sinking ship. So, when you're developing several projects and you have an investment in different tasks associated with a big vision, you want to avoid funding the sinking ship. If everyone around you is saying, I don't know about that idea, I'm not sure that's a good investment, but you're saying, but I believe in it. Sometimes, you have to listen to those that are around you because they have that insight, but you're too close sometimes to the project. Sometimes it's so important to you that you don't want to let it go because you put so much into it, your heart and soul, and it's failing, it's failing, and you're still funding it. Sometimes you have to look at it. And one of the watch outs and things to avoid is funding something that is costing you a lot of money. I don't know if I have time, but let's use this as an example with Oprah Winfrey and the OWN network.
Right.
When she started OWN, she was, excited, super happy. Everything was working. She had some sponsors. But at the end of the day, she was losing money. She was putting money in a sinking ship. And it wasn't until Tyler Perry and some of the other quote unquote TV producers and movie producers stepped in and saved her by offering shows and giving her support and mentoring that said, okay, this is what's going to work for this network. And they showed her the way. And then OWN recovered, because she listened. Just think if she hadn't listened to the Tyler Perrys and she didn't have those hit shows, or brought in an Elanya Van Zant and had the hit show Fix My Life. If those shows didn't exist on OWN, it would be a sinking ship. So she was mentored, and someone stepped in and said, this is a sinking ship. If you don't change course and do these things, you're going to have to let it go. And she was willing to let it go. She was announcing, I'm going to let it go because I don't like to lose money.
Right. Now, there's now a conundrum with what you just said, because some of us, maybe not, when you say listen to others, there are some people we absolutely should listen to, and there are some we absolutely shouldn't. How can you tell the difference of which ones those are?
You definitely have to vet your confidants. In business, we all know that, we find people that we respect in the industry who've had demonstrated ability. And I keep using that demonstrated ability, because when someone shows you that they are capable of doing something and they are experts at it, and you can talk to anyone in their circle and know that they absolutely have delivered in the way that they have said, that is someone that you can keep in your circle. So you're always vetting all those individuals to ensure that they are who they said they were. And that's important, because you can't share your vision with everyone. You can't, pour your heart out and talk about the wonderful ideas that you have with just anybody. So you have to ensure that your inner circle is vetted. So you want to do your homework. You want to talk about, all those talk with those individuals who have a strong reputation, not only, in your inner circle, but also in the community. So you have to literally do your homework, do your background on people before you take them and sit them down at your table, before you allow them to even have the opportunity to share your vision with them, because your vision is gold. Why would you put it in front of anybody just because they said that they have, just because their card says they're an expert? You can be a card carrying expert all day long, but that's not going to cause me to open my portfolio. So let's be clear that you have to vet these people. So Jay, that's super important.
Now, what are the ways? Let's pretend for a second that, I agree with you, and I do, but how do I vet these? What does that look like? Is there a 12-step process? Where's the book on that? How do I get the right people in my circle of friends so that I know what are some of those telltale signs that you've seen that go, you know what? You need new friends. How can someone go out there and intentionally develop that?
Well, I tell you, there's never a 100% a way to ensure that someone's not going to flake out on you and become like the worst partner or the worst, mentor in your inner circle, because sometimes money will change people, sometimes different circumstances will cause people to react and show up in a way that's counter everything that they were before. So be mindful that there's no 100 foolproof way of knowing how people are going to show up and how honest people are going to be. But seeing how integrity is my highest value, I have no problems in running, people through, a reference point, talking to people that they know, having personal conversation, interviewing them casually. I mean, you're wanting to get to know people, and you don't move as quickly as, you meet someone at a networking event and then 2 weeks later you want to talk about partnering. That's not smart. You want to ensure that you have background checks. Has anybody ever committed a crime? What kind of crime did they commit? Is that okay with you that they've committed that crime? Is it okay with you that they have business deals that were failed and he was the reason the business failed? You got to know the history of people. And when you're vetting someone, you want to ask them personally, would you mind if I, ask you some questions about your business history? Would you mind if I talk to some of those people? And you have to be bold about it, because you have a lot at stake. This is your personal life. This is your investment. You're the commodity. So you have to look at it and go in hardcore. Corporations do it all the time when they're interviewing people for a job, and they have no problem giving you a pink slip when you don't perform. So you have to remember, you're the CEO, you are the person in charge, and you have to take that attitude. So when I run a background check, I want to find out if you have a criminal record. That's not okay with me if you do. So, you have to, sometimes you have to be a little, it's a little bold, but it's real for me. And so I talked about what's at stake and how far do you want to go based on what's at stake.
You have an intense amount of passion for this, and I love it because it is that important. I mean, whatever it takes to go out there and realize and make a dream happen is an amazing amount of energy, sacrifice, and time, etc. And you've got to protect it from the beginning, which is what you're really saying, is protect it from the beginning, because there are individuals out there where it may not go as you intended. And many of you, if you've listened to any of the past episodes, you've heard me talk about some of my dealings with those individuals in that situation. At the end of the day, though, don't let it ruin you from thinking there's nobody I can work with. There's somebody out there. I think one of the most important things, Towanna, that I want that one must learn to maintain, and clearly Oprah did as well as others, is not just surrounding yourself with the right people, but listening to them. And by listening, I don't think you mean just letting their words come into, your ears, but I also see that there's an action component of considering that their idea is better than mine. Mm-hmm. How important would you say that is for most would-be entrepreneurs to develop that skill set?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. When you are surrounding yourself with your own board of advisors, we all need that. As entrepreneurs, you need a board of advisors, people that are smarter than you, people who have accomplished, what you're aspiring to accomplish and greater. And they all represent different things. They represent the areas in finance, maybe law, corporate structure, whatever it is that you're doing, you want to ensure you surround yourself with someone that represents one of the areas that you must explore within your business development. So your business model has to have a key player, across the board. So having those smart people in the room, it is critical. It is necessary. So you can't, you as you're starting out, it may be just you, the solopreneur, and you may be talking to, other people in a networking event and just getting some nice notes and testing those things that they said. But as the game shifts for you, and as you become bigger and make more money, the playing field change and it shifts quickly. More people be attracted to you because you have a little bit more money and they can see it. And so then you have all the folk coming around saying, oh, I want to be in that game because they have money. You want to, watch out for all those. So the vetting process and having the smart people around you, that I could not be where I am today if it weren't for those smart people. So I look for the Jay Masseys and say, you know what, I'm looking for someone like Jay because this is an area of my life. And let's just talk about real estate. You know what, I've always been fascinated by it. I've played in it. I've done well, but I didn't master it, but I would love to. So before I look at my portfolio, I'm like, I need a Jay Massey in my life, and I need to, get in the cash flow game because I seriously need to expand this part of my portfolio. So I'm going for it. So I have to present myself to a Jay Massey. I have to come to the table with something. It can't be some, flake. I have to show him that I'm worthy of, the space. And so I do my part. But when he agrees to take, to be a part of it, I mean, I'm humbled. I'm listening. I'm going to do what he says. I'm vetting everything he says, and I'm going in. I'm giving it all. I'm going to do it.
I like it already. That's very encouraging and exciting because it's interesting how there can be times where you're the one seeking help, but yet once you get someone to agree, we occasionally can go, well, I know a better way, or we have a better idea than what this person has just said. And I think that's a unfortunate mistake that we can often make from time to time. So with all of these things going on, and I'm sure, we could talk about them for many, many more hours. What I would love you to do, I'm sure there's a person or two who's probably wanting to know how they can track you down, find out more about what you got going on. What would you say is the absolute best way for us to do that?
On my, they can always find me on my website, towannafreeman.com. And it's spelled TOWANNA TowannaFreeman.com. And on my website, obviously, I'm on social media at my name, Towanna Freeman, on all my accounts, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's all Towanna Freeman. So you can find me on social media easily. And I'm always, engaging with people because you can't run a network of people and not connect with them because they're always constantly asking 1,000 questions. So I'm always available on social media. So you can catch me there. And for your listening audience, I would love to give you an opportunity to connect with me. If you visit my website and want to learn more, you're welcome to check out my book. It was published in 2009. And so for your listening audience, I would love to share a portion of my book with them. If they would like to visit my site, they can catch it at towannafreeman.com/cashflow. Real nice and easy.
Love that. Thank you for that very much. Now, final question. Let's pretend that there's someone listening right now who is considering putting on their superhero outfit for the very first time. They've finally got up the gumption. I'm going to go out there, swoop in, be an entrepreneur, and save people too. I even know what color cape I'm going to be wearing. But they probably a little still hesitant, or maybe they're just wondering, is this really going to work? What would you say to that person?
If you're still hesitant in whether your idea is going to work, then I would suggest that you find yourself a great coach or find yourself someone that you can confide in and talk about that fear of failure. Because the root of that is knowing that you have everything and everything is ready and you really can transition. You've set up your salary, you got your security, but yet you're still a little nervous. That fear of failure or that lack of feeling secure is the root of that. So it is as simple as connecting with someone that can help you get enough boldness. And it won't take long. I promise you it won't take long. Getting that boldness to just say, I'm in. It's just like jumping into a pool when when it's summertime and everyone else is just jumping in and you're a new swimmer. You can't do it like everybody else. Sometimes it takes you sitting down, putting your feet in and stepping off the side versus jumping in. So that intermediate step would be find yourself someone you can speak to about that fear of failure and success. So you want to just that simple move will make a difference.
Nice. Well, I definitely want to take the time to thank you for investing here with the Cashflow Diary audience today.
I loved it. You guys are so awesome at Cashflow.
We try. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It is time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean today? Well, today, it simply means go get a copy of the book. It's probably the easiest thing that I'm going to ask you to do on this particular episode. Except this. Now you got to do the title of the book, Purposeful Action. Do something today that you did on purpose to intentionally create that new future, that new you, that new skill set or resource that you know you need to become in the future. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Until next time.